Hi, everyone. My name is Sara Shikhman, and I'm the managing partner at Lingia Law. At Lingia, we work with lots of different healthcare startups and healthcare companies of all stages. So, small med spas, large healthcare corporations, IV clinics, mental health providers, and everything in between. And the purpose of this webinar is to really go over some emergent Texas legislation. And my colleague Nick is going to join me here and he'll introduce himself. And together we have probably close to 30 years of experience practicing law. I've been practicing for about 18 years and have seen a lot of legislation come and go. And we'll talk about this particular legislation, what it means for your practice, and what we think is the likelihood of it being enacted. So, Nick, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, my name's Nick Shafer. I'm our Texas licensed attorney here at Lingia. I've been monitoring the current legislative session and tracking bills that are most pertinent to our clients and in some cases could be really disruptive to the medical aesthetic industry at large in Texas. So we're going to work through some of those today, talk about, what the implications would be if they were passed as they're currently written, the status of them, and some loose predictions on how this might shake out.
I think that some of these bills, if they were to be passed, would make a big difference in the industry. But the real thing is maybe the possibility of them being passed is not that high, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, so I think a few of these are one in particular is well-intentioned and you can make a patient safety argument for the purpose of each of the bills, but each of them would put Texas behind other states, would overly restrict the power and the scope of practice for mid-level practitioners. And when that's something that's the opposite is happening in the majority of states around the nation. So I think that the fact that these bills, at least three of them, are kind of aberrations that would take Texas back. And when you look at some of the interest groups that are involved in this, they're very pro-physician. They're targeting the scope of practice of advanced practitioners, so NPs and PAs, to try to limit that scope of practice. And there's other purposes at play here than just patient safety and trying to address some issues that probably do need to be addressed in Texas, but aren't really correctly targeted by this legislation.
Yeah, makes sense. So the first one we're going to talk about is House Bill 3749, otherwise known as Jennifer's Law.
Yeah, and this one is the big one that if it passed in its current form, the way that I would say a majority of med spas are and medical aesthetic practices and even IV hydration, the way that they're operating in Texas would be completely disrupted and would become illegal. So it's really important. I don't really think that this has a chance of passing in its current form, but I can't make that guarantee. So if you are a med spa owner who doesn't have a physician on site, doesn't have the ability to pay for a physician on site, or is in a rural area where maybe there's not a physician that you can even contact or contract with to be on site, I would encourage you to reach out to your representative in the House of Representatives, let them know your concerns with this bill, let them know how it will affect your business, because as you'll see once we get into this, it would drastically affect the way most of our clients are operating. So some of the key provisions that's throwing out our current good faith exam process, physician assistants and nurse practitioners, their scope of prescriptive authority would actually be limited in the medical aesthetics context in a way that it's not in other areas of medicine. So that they would not be allowed to perform the initial patient exam that would create the patient relationship, create the treatment plan, write the initial prescriptive order for the good faith exam process. All of that would have to be done by the physician medical director, which means that at the very least a telemedicine visit with a physician. And Sarah, as you know, a lot of people are using NPs and PAs to do that initial exam and order, and it would be costly. It would be difficult to find physicians who are willing to perform those services, and it would cause an issue where a structure that the majority of med spas in Texas are relying on is suddenly gone and has to be replaced with a scarcer resource, and everybody's competing for the same resources, which is physician medical directors who will do that work.
Yeah, and this would probably drive up the cost for the med spas, but then it would, as a result, drive up the cost for patients and limit care for patients because there just aren't enough physicians to do this. And there are not enough physicians who want to do this. So while we understand the background of the law and the importance of patient safety, it's also a big overreach to do it this way because it's going to create a bigger problem, which is going to be less patient safety because there aren't enough physicians to do this. So people would just not have anyone.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that this law is put forth by a representative from the district where there was a death at an IV hydration clinic. And this law is written in response to that, but it doesn't address the underlying issue, which was that IV hydration clinic wasn't complying with the laws as they're currently written. If they were, if services were delivered according to a protocol, if the patient had seen a physician or an MP or a PA for that initial good faith exam, then it's likely that this wouldn't have happened. So the idea of creating a bill that is going to add additional restrictions when the underlying issue was that the laws on the books weren't being followed in the first place is basically a punishment for the industry at large that doesn't address the underlying problem. And the requirement that a physician performs that initial exam isn't the only restriction here. The law, as written right now, also requires a physician to be either on site or immediately available when cosmetic procedures are being performed. So you can't rely on telemedicine or even a physician that can make site visits periodically throughout the month. You need somebody who can be immediately available at all times when procedures are being performed. So that even further narrows the pool of potential physicians who can deliver these services. And honestly, the way a lot of med spas are operating right now, I don't see a way for many of them to continue operating compliantly if the law were passed as it's written right now.
So what can people do? Let's say for all of our clients in Texas who oppose this legislation, what can they do to help make sure that this law, as it's written, doesn't pass?
So I would contact your representatives. You can just Google your city and who your Texas House representative is. Send them an email, call their office, let them know that you're in support of, because I talk to so many people who work in this industry, and patient safety is of paramount importance to all of our clients and all of these business owners. I think that we need to make it clear that we can deliver these services safely. The mid-levels can have the scope of authority, the prescriptive authority that they have in, far more dangerous and complicated areas of the medical practice without passing a law that is going to completely disrupt the industry and put people out of business, frankly. So I contact your representative. Our local news station in Austin, KXAN, has done some reporting on this issue. I contact them, let them know what you're doing to make sure that your patients are safe, let them know that you have a good faith exam process, that you're delivering services according to protocols, that MPs and PAs have extensive training and are competent and have the professional knowledge to deliver these services safely. I think just make your voice heard, let them know that you're for patient safety, for common sense reform, but that this is an overreach.
Got it.
Yeah.
And where does this bill stand now? Like in the legislative process, like how far along is it? Because I think a lot of reports online are like as if it's almost passed.
Yeah, like it's
Not really.
get ready for September. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it has just made it to the public health committee, It hasn't had a hearing in the committee yet. So basically, the bill has been submitted. It's been read. It's been sent to the committee, and where that it still needs to be examined by the committee. It needs to be voted out of committee. That there are significant steps that need to take place before it even gets to the House for a vote, and then to the Senate for a vote, and then to the governor's desk. So we are in early stages here. We're going to be monitoring the committee hearings to try to get an idea of how they're responding to it and whether or not, people are make good points and advocating against it. But yes, we're in the early stages right now.
Got it. Okay, so to summarize, this bill is in the early stages, but it would impact the industry in a significant way. So important for us and our clients to continue watching out and monitoring the legislation. And if anything should change about it, of course, we'll let our clients know. And it's an overreach, and we understand like why it happened, but we think that there are better ways to get the point across where, yes, there should be more patient safety, but this particular bill is not the answer.
Yeah, I mean, we work in jurisdictions across the United States. This bill would make Texas the most restrictive state for the medical aesthetic industry. We're usually a pretty pro-business state. I don't think that this is going to be passed in this form, but make your voice heard, contact your representative because it would be a significant blow to the industry.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. This was super helpful. If clients have questions, they could always reach out to us. Our website is www.lingealaw.com, and our contact information will be at the end of this video. And we're going to make more videos about the other bills, so stay tuned for those. And thanks, Nick, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.